Hello, friends. This is Paul with B&B Theaters. Hope wherever you are watching this that you're safe and you're healthy and you're comfortable. Enduring your stay-at-home quarantine time as best you can, enjoying the magic of the movies as best as you're able until you can get back to a B&B Theaters location to enjoy the magic of the movies on the big screen where movies are meant to be seen. In the meantime, we at B&B are trying to create some content online to keep you entertained, informed, distracted. And so we've reached out to some of our friends at film studios, some friends in distribution and production, all across the spectrum to pull back the curtain, as it were, on the movies, that side, I guess, of the magic of the movies that they create before it gets to us, before it gets to you. And I'm joined by a slugger today in the business, Mr. Scott Forman, Executive Vice President and General Sales Manager at Warner Brothers. Scott, how are you, sir?
We're doing great, thank you. Holding up well, and hope you and everyone in the B&B family likewise.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's an interesting time. I imagine we're in the Midwest here, isolated from a lot of things. Things tend to get to us last. Are you able to go to work? Are you working from home, or what's your day-to-day kind of like?
Yeah, no, obviously being cautious like everyone else. Warner Studios shut down. I think this is week 6 for us, and we call this working from home the new normal. And It looks like it'll continue for a while, but we're not only shut down at the studio, you almost need a letter from the governor and a signature from 5 high authorities to get on the lot at this point.
I understand. Well, listen, you've done a lot of things, been a lot of places. It probably makes the most sense maybe for you almost to do your own introduction. Give us a little bit of an elevator pitch of sort of where you come from and what led you to the position you're in now at Warner Brothers.
Okay, so the 10,000-foot view real quick is very similar to B&B Theaters. I'm a third generation member of this industry. My family, the other side of my family is the Pacific Theaters, ArcLight Cinema exhibition family. My father grew up in the business and ran the circuit before retiring. And helped create Show West, which is now CinemaCon. We grew up in the Pacific Northwest. The highlight of my childhood, I think, was getting to change the letters on the marquee at the drive-in theaters. That was a big deal to a 4- and 5-year-old. I have an older brother, Jeff, and he works for the Rat Company down the street from us in Burbank over at Disney. Mm-hmm. But getting to change the marquee was a big deal. We grew up in the Pacific Northwest. My dad ran the theaters up there, was brought down to LA to run Pacific Theaters in the early 1970s. And obviously we came along with them. And my brother and I were both fortunate to get internships at studios. Ironically, my brother worked at Warner Brothers and I worked at Columbia Pictures and got my start from a Midwest champion by the name of Jimmy Spitz. Out of Milwaukee, and worked for Columbia for a number of years, kind of cut my teeth there while I was still in college. And the first few years of my professional career in 1989 or 87, I went over to MGM for a few years, taking a higher position there. And in late 1989, 30 plus years ago, I came to Warner Brothers, and Jeff Goldstein and a great lady who's passed, Shirley Becker, hired me back in late 89, and I've been part of the Warner Brothers family ever since.
Well, so coming from an exhibition background, I mean, how has that informed your approach to studio work? Not that we're that different or combative necessarily, but I mean, you do one thing, we do another. How has it kind of contributed to your approach to this line of work?
Well, I think probably growing up, hearing the calls that my dad would get. He used to get calls every Friday and Saturday night with people looking for passes to get into the Cinerama Dome or other theaters in LA that were high in demand theaters. I think what I learned most out of growing up in the exhibition business and listening to my father's dealings was really no company, no matter how hard they work, can do it on their own. It's all about the partnerships that are created between distribution and exhibition, between our vendor partners, and the magic of the movies and entertaining the world that we all strive to do only happens when we're all in sync and we're all working for the greater good.
No, I haven't been around that long. I'm certainly a bit player in the big scheme of things. I've been with B&B for almost maybe 13 years, I think now. And so I've met a number of people from studios or in distribution who have seemingly made their way in the trade by sort of bouncing from place to place as opportunities become available. It seems to me that 30 plus years with one institution is not typical. Is that right? Or are you kind of an anomaly in this way?
I would say I've just been incredibly fortunate. I think you look at the B&B family and what they've done. When you get to be part of the best team in the business, why would you go anywhere else? And I was fortunate to get my start at Columbia and made a move early in my career to MGM just for greater responsibility, opportunity, and exposure. But when you get to work at a Rolls-Royce company that puts out world-class content year in and year out and has had the greatest history of tent poles over the long haul of this business. Obviously, Disney's been on an enviable run the last few years. But if you look at that span, and certainly my career, one studio has stood up bigger than the rest, and that's Warner Brothers. And I think the fact that we've had great content to sell, but we do it I'd like to think we do it in a very family-oriented way. Our relationships with Bob and Brock and other exhibitors, I think, are really unique. And those partnerships and the way we go about doing business, hopefully in a humane, supportive way, very much like B&B, for us, it's about great content and certainly the business of the movies. But we take very seriously the responsibility of entertaining the world and also making the world better. And one of the things that everybody salutes B&B about is their philanthropic commitment. And I'm really fortunate to work at Warner Brothers and for a guy, Jeff Goldstein, that totally believes in philanthropy. And prior to him, the same was true with Dan Feldman. But we really live philanthropy at Warner Brothers and try and make a difference in our communities, not just by entertaining them, but by really giving back as well. And when you can merge those things and feel good about what you're doing professionally, and also hopefully making a small contribution, as you had said, that you're making, I hope to make a small contribution and make the world a little better in the process too.
Man, that's great. You touched on a lot of things, kind of some different ways that I was planning on going. You mentioned though too that Warner Brothers is sort of an all-year studio, and that definitely has a reputation within the exhibition world for providing content, not just during the summer or holiday seasons, but great content that fill out every month. How can you, I don't know if this is even a question that you can answer succinctly, but how can you approach that kind of schedule and try and map out that much content for that much time? It just seems like a tremendous undertaking that you've done successfully for quite some time.
Yeah, I think Jeff and our production team and the Greenlight team, they really work really hard on being a 52-week-a-year studio. It's hard sometimes to compete with other major tentpoles, so to try and be on the same date as other people's breakthrough franchise content, it doesn't make sense for us. It doesn't make sense for exhibition. It doesn't make sense for the industry. Looking at a 52-week calendar, we've shown originally with Twister opening up the first week in May, we've shown that May can act like summer, and we defined when summer started with the movie Twister, and it no longer was June 1st. We moved it up a month. And if you look at what we've done in the last few years, Jeff identified the date for the original It of September 8th a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And it wasn't only the biggest R-rated movie of all time. It blew away anything we had ever seen in September or October. And we followed it up. And if you look at the last few years, August, September, and October are months that Warner Brothers, with Joker from last year and some of the other content, and It Too again, we've been able to find and extend the calendar at a time really where exhibition and the public really need to be entertained. There's obviously, usually in a non-pandemic season, plenty of summer and Christmas, but not always for the other weeks of the year. And I think we've realized and listened to what exhibition has had to say. like any good partnership, you got to listen to what your partners are saying. And one of the crying calls of NATO is we're open 52 weeks a year. Give us content. And we've taken that to heart.
Wonderful. You know, you mentioned Twister, you mentioned It, you mentioned Joker. You've been at, I don't know how to say this delicately, you've been at Warner Brothers almost as long as I've been alive. And I'm thinking about all of the significant content that has come out of that studio during my lifetime. I mean, movies like the Christopher Nolan Batman films, the Hobbit films, you got your Harry Potter poster there behind you. And you've at least tangentially been involved in all of this stuff. Has there been a specific feature or project that has been just really meaningful to you or significant personally? I don't know how fair a question that is to ask you over a 3-decade career with the company.
No, I think it's fair, and it's fair to call me old, Paul. I get it. It's funny. I look around, and I was that young kid. I was fortunate to be an intern at Columbia Pictures when I was still a senior in high school, and I always looked at myself as the kid, and then all of a sudden, you know, I must have woken up last week, and the kid's 57 years old, and I'm older than most of the people that I work with now, and it's like, hey, it's how you feel, I guess. But
hey, that's right.
Yeah, I think there are a few magical projects for me that really stand out in my Warner Brothers career. It would probably be 3 projects that jump to mind, all for different reasons, but incredible experiences. The first one undoubtedly would be 27 years ago, would be Unforgiven. The night Unforgiven won Best Picture. My wife and I were at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, my wife had just given birth to our oldest son, Jeremy, the same night that Unforgiven won the Academy Award for Best Picture. And the fact that Eastwood was he's been an icon for anyone who's touched this industry. But about 3 or 4 weeks prior to the movie premiering, Dan Feldman, Jeff Goldstein, and I got to go up to Monterey, and there was a special premiere of Unforgiven in Clint's hometown where he lives. And after the premiere, we went to Clint's, he owns an inn up there, a small inn. And there are many a nights where I guess Clint hangs out at the, I won't call it the saloon, at the restaurant at his inn. And he gets behind the bar, he brings people drinks. And on this particular night, I guess Barry Reardon was with us. Barry Reardon was the old dean of distribution going way back at Warner Brothers. Everybody loved Barry, and Barry was just a great friend of Clint's. And he says, hey, come on by afterwards. And so we came by Clint's inn, and long story short, Clint had to be, he was what, 70, he had to be in his maybe 65 at the time, early 60s. And he had jeans on and a white t-shirt. And this guy came over to us. Hey guys, how you doing? His arms were chiseled. And It's, what can I get you to drink? The next thing we know, Clint Eastwood's bringing the 3 of us beers. And I'll just say the way the night finished, at the end of the night, Barry Reardon, who was then the president of distribution at Warner Brothers, was sitting on the piano with Clint Eastwood leading everybody in the joint singing songs. And that was the most magical picture and career moment for me that I've ever had. I thought it was going to be like that all the time. I've never had another experience like it. But then when you combine the fact that my son was born on the night the picture won Best Picture, gotta be my favorite movie of all time for that reason. 2 other movies, you mentioned the Harry Potter, the original Harry Potter one sheet behind me. To be a father, and I know you have 3 young kids, Paul. Just to put it into perspective, I think your oldest is 11.
Yeah, that's right.
Your oldest is 11. My oldest, as I said, is 27. We're 27, 24, and our youngest Bailey will turn 21 in June. When the Harry Potter movies were released, for that brief period of time, at least in and around when each of those movies came out, I became a really cool dad. The rest of the time, probably not so much. But when those movies were coming out and when those premieres were happening, I I think my kids thought they might have a shot at getting to some of those premieres, which fortunately they did.
Nice.
And thanks to J.K. Rowling and those movies, I think a big part of their childhood was framed around those movies and the magic that Harry Potter brought to generations of moviegoers was really special. And then one other movie, not to have this go on too long, that was kind of just an out of nowhere magical experience. We knew that Harry Potter was going to be special. You know, certainly after the first one, we had caught the imagination of the public worldwide. And it's a great lesson to everybody. I mean, J.K. Rowling was told she should go find something else to do. Her series would never sell. Well, no one's saying that now, right? It's just a great example. Just believe in yourself. You can accomplish anything. But the other magical moment happened at Show East in 2009. We had a little movie that we were high on, but no one had heard of. So we said, let's take this movie to Show East and show the exhibitors. It's really that good. And it was a movie called The Blind Side. And exhibition didn't know really what to think. It was a football movie. How many sports movies have really been big box office successes? And we showed the movie, and the movie had an unknown star by the name of Quentin Aaron, just a monster of a kid. And I don't think before this particular night, anybody had ever asked him for his autograph. He was a total unknown. And we showed the movie. We had 2 nearly packed auditoriums at the Show East convention. And when the exhibitors came out, we gave them all a football. And on the side of it, and it wasn't a leather football, believe me, it was a cheapie. Yeah. But on the side of it, it said The Blind Side. Well, people held on to that like they had just gotten an Academy Award. And people saw Quentin Aaron in the lobby. And they started walking up to him. Long story short, the line went all the way around the lobby. And people stood there for an hour taking pictures and asking for Quentin's autograph. And I don't truly believe anyone had ever asked him for his autograph. He was a totally unknown. He actually, when he applied for the role, because physically Quentin was a huge man, 6'4", 6'5", 300 plus pounds. I think he was closer to 400 pounds when he interviewed. He was interviewing either for the part of the movie or to work security on the movie. Either one would have made him happy. And I guess that goes along with when we say the magic of the movies. That's a pretty good story.
Yeah, I guess, man. That's great. I could listen to those all day. You know, you too, though, you work in what a lot of us would regard as something of a magical place. I know that Los Angeles is hardly rainbows and unicorns all the time, but that for us, that's where the magic is made. And I've only been there a couple of times, but I made it a point to visit the Hollywood sign, the Chinese theater, but also, as to the extent that I was able, the Warner Brothers lot, which is one of those sort of iconic and symbolic places where this stuff gets made. And you get to spend a lot of time there. I mean, is that right? Or on the lot or between the lots?
Yeah, currently we're distribution and marketing are in a glass building directly across the street from the lot, but we're on the lot every day. And to your point, Paul, again, we're really blessed. You say, well, why have you stayed at Warner Brothers? Walk on our lot for an hour just one day, and you'll understand why people don't leave Warner Brothers or don't leave very often. It's why filmmakers like Clint Eastwood have made their career there, and fortunately Chris Nolan and many others. But it's a pretty magical place to work, and they take extreme care of manicuring the lot every day. We have a gym on the lot, and other than Monday mornings, because we're all busy doing our responsibilities on Monday, setting the theaters for the week ahead. But every other day of the week, I walk onto the lot to work out in the gym. And every single morning, they're manicuring bushes. They're blowing any leaves or anything that's fallen. Every day, they're treating it like this is the only day someone's going to visit the lot, and the lot needs to be perfect. And that's a pretty magical place to be. And if you've ever taken the Warner Brothers tour, and if you haven't, we invite you to please come. Talk to Brock. He'll get in touch with me. We'll make some arrangements.
I'll do that.
But please come. The tour is a magical tour. It isn't just a thrill ride. as they take you on the tour, every soundstage is labeled with every movie or television show that has ever shot on the sound stages. So you go from soundstage to soundstage and read the epic, historic, Academy Award or commercially successful movies that have played on so many of the stages of our lot. And it's just a privilege to be there.
Well, Scott, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I feel like it would be a disservice not to mention a few of these things. You mentioned Warner Brothers' commitment to humanitarian efforts, and certainly I think your own personal contributions deserve mention here. I've got a list. I don't want to, embarrass you or anything, but you've received some fairly. Well, I mean, I do want to hear the story though. You've received some significant awards from NATO, the National Association of Theater Owners, from Time Warner. The Award of Show East, the Salem Hassanein Humanitarian Award. But the one that I want to ask you about is you received the President's Lifetime Achievement Award from President Obama. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess I did.
That's incredible. If you don't mind me asking, I don't want you to sit here and toot your own horn, make yourself uncomfortable, but the criteria for these are just significant, exceptional volunteer service. What was it, or what organization were you affiliated with that got this kind of attention, and what was that experience like for you?
Okay. When I was a young boy, I think I was about 9 years old, right after we had moved from the Pacific Northwest to Southern California. My dad had a couple of men that worked at Pacific Theaters take me down to the Variety Boys and Girls Club in Boyle Heights and introduce me to what the less fortunate environment and less fortunate kids, the conditions that they lived in. And so I went down to this Boys and Girls Club that was an old 1930s building. It was being held together with Band-Aids and chewing gum and tape, but it was a magical place in that community. Boyle Heights is in East LA. It's the gang center of Los Angeles. There are 28 active gangs within a 5-mile radius, but our Boys and Girls Club is a safe haven. And I got introduced to the club when I was 9, and it just kind of connected with me and was a magical place. So every year there was a Halloween party, and I went down and gave out pizzas and what have you. And there was a Christmas party, and I would go and give out toys, but just kind of got the philanthropic bug in me from that. And I guess I've stayed involved with it for my lifetime. And fast forward in and about the year 2000, we started a capital campaign to build a brand new state-of-the-art Boys and Girls Club. And it took us 12 years to raise a little over $10 million, but we raised the $10 million. $6 million of those $10 million came from this fantastic industry that we're all a part of. And through our exhibition partners, through NATO of California, Nevada has been a tremendous support for the club for forever. And we raised the money, we built the club. We'd like to say in 2011, we opened up the club. The mayor of Los Angeles and other dignitaries were there along with me. We got to open up the club, and we think we built perhaps as nice a club as exists in the United States in gang-infested East Los Angeles to give these kids in Boyle Heights the dream of having the opportunities that some of us have been fortunate enough to have. And I guess without me knowing, some people took the story to the National Boys and Girls Club of America, and it made its way to the White House. And based on the hours of service through a long period of time, I got the recognition from President Obama, which was pretty cool. But let's talk about a more favorite moment of mine philanthropically.
All right.
That involves your circuit, because it'll be a little less embarrassing for me.
Okay.
And that would be the 2018 Grand Geneva Convention. I did get the Ben Marcus Award at that convention, which along with the Obama Award and the Time Warner Award that you mentioned are certainly personal highlights for me. But what made that day so special and why attending that convention was so important to me is I received my award with the B&B family, and Bob Begbie receiving an award saluting your circuit for much longer service to the community and doing many more good things to help people than I've done. I was just honored to be able to banter back and forth with Bob a little bit and have a little bit of fun with Steve Marcus and talk about the business. And the one thing that we all know is, which is such a tradition in our business, it's about giving back. And Exhibition has been a leader of it. My dad certainly, in all of his years at Pacific Theaters, and Chris Forman and the other side of the family, his father Mike, have been hugely philanthropic in their focus. And that's how variety got started in this country in the first place, back in 1927, by a bunch of exhibitors taking an interest in a child that had been left abandoned. And some of the best work that's been done in philanthropy, certainly in our industry, if not the country, has been done by exhibition families. And your circuit and the Bagby family is widely respected by anyone and everyone that knows this business and knows them as absolute champions of making a difference, not just in entertaining small towns in America, but really trying to make a difference and help people. So when Brock asked me if I would do this, I'd probably say yes to you guys before I'd say yes to anybody else, because I think so much of what we share, Paul, is a commitment to our partnership, to the industry, and to giving back.
Well, I've heard both Bob and Brock talk about that awards ceremony in Geneva that evening, so I can assure you that the respect and appreciation is mutual. And thank you for what you've done for the industry and for all these, these charitable outreaches that you've undertaken. Before I let you go, at B&B, we talk about the magic of the movies all the time. Clearly, the theatrical experience is vitally important to us. But from a Warner Brothers perspective, what is the value of the big screen, particularly maybe in this time when so many Americans are feeling the fault?
I would say for all of us that is at home, I think the two things we want to do more than anything else is we want to be able to go to a restaurant and go out to dinner, and we want to go to the movies. And when you ask the value to Warner Brothers, I can just say that Jeff Goldstein, who I work for, has been at Warner Brothers, where I've been at Warner Brothers for over 30 years. He's been there over 40 years. And similar to my family story, he had an uncle that was in the business for many decades prior to him. We've grown up with an exhibition distribution partnership all our lives. So the magic of the movies and what the movies means to us is all about seeing it in a dark theater with the biggest screen, with the freshest smelling popcorn and the best amenities possible. And I think rather than to talk about Warner Brothers, the best way to really summarize what we feel about the big screen experience has been said during this COVID-19 pandemic by Christopher Nolan, a signatory filmmaker at our studio. He came out immediately with our film Tenet this summer, a big blockbuster that hopefully everyone at B&B will not only see, but will promote like no other. Ideally, if things worked out, we'd like to be the first movie to come back. Chris Nolan's commitment to the theatrical experience and the partnership with Exhibition is second to none. Exhibition doesn't have a greater champion in the filmmaking community than Chris Nolan, with 70 millimeter, with preservation of film. But it's all about how a movie should be seen. And in his mind, that is only in one place, the big screen. And I think Chris's vision speaks to how Jeff and I and the entire theatrical distribution team, with Carrie Silvera and Kelly O'Connor and our exhibitor marketing group, we're totally committed and all in on the theatrical experience. And there's nothing any of us look forward to more than to entertain the world with our exhibition partners and getting back to the movies so that life can really feel normal and we can celebrate like we're made to celebrate. And hopefully with this pent-up demand, when the time's right for us all to go back to the theaters, sooner than later, we all hope, we see an explosion at the box office in a way that we haven't seen it in a long time. And the trajectory of attendance goes up, and the value and the appreciation for the theater worker, the person popping the popcorn or cleaning the theater, the projectionist. I'm thinking that going forward, there might hopefully be a greater appreciation for the role that we all play in making our society so great. So hopefully we end up as a better society and people appreciate the movies even more in the future than they have in the past.
God, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to get on the other side of this, get reopened, and get some Warner Brothers content on screen.
Right back at you. Thanks, Paul.